The unexpected ultimatum. The sky over Earth was calm, a sense of peace hanging in the air. People went about their daily lives, unaware of the darkness that loomed just beyond their atmosphere. The world had grown accustomed to its position in the galaxy, isolated, free, and without interference from any higher powers. The Galactic Council, a mysterious and distant collective of alien races, had never shown much interest in Earth. To them, humanity was just another primitive species, small and insignificant in the vast universe. Earth was a footnote in the grand story of the galaxy. But that all changed one cold morning in February. The first sign came in the form of a strange signal, something Earth scientists had never encountered before. It was an encrypted transmission, too powerful to ignore, and it came from deep space. Across the globe, every communication device, televisions, radios, phones, blared the same message at the exact same time. It wasn't a broadcast from any human government or organization. It was an uninvited, unexpected signal from the Galactic Council itself. The message was simple, but its impact was immediate and devastating. To the people of Earth, you have been found in violation of the Galactic Accord. You are hereby given 1 Earth year to surrender your sovereignty and submit to the will of the Galactic Council. Failure to comply will result in immediate military action. The words echoed in every home, every street, every city. People froze. A chill ran down their spines. The Galactic Council had never addressed Earth directly before, and now they were threatening war. The reaction was immediate. Panic spread like wildfire. News stations buzzed with the chaos unfolding across the globe. Governments scrambled to issue statements, but nothing could calm the growing fear. The idea that Earth, once so free, could be drawn into a galactic war seemed impossible. Yet the message was clear. Earth had a year to comply, or face the consequences. On every screen, a single cold image appeared, a hologram of the Galactic Council's emblem. It was a symbol of 3 intertwined rings, glowing with a faint otherworldly light. Beneath the symbol, words appeared in bold, icy letters. Failure to comply will be met with destruction. The Galactic Council, a collective of the galaxy's most advanced races, was not known for mercy. It was a governing body that kept the galaxy in balance, but with a heavy hand. And Earth, which had long remained off the radar, was now a target. For what reason, no one knew. The governments of Earth immediately went into crisis mode. The United Nations held an emergency session, with representatives from every country gathered to discuss their next move. The President of the United States, along with the leaders of China, Russia, and the European Union, sat around a massive table in a tense meeting. Military advisors, diplomats, and scientists were called in to assess the situation, but no one had answers. "There's no record of this galactic accord," said General Walker, the head of Earth's military. "We've never encountered a group like the Galactic Council. They're not just some small alien species. They control the entire galaxy, and their word is law. If they say Earth has violated something, then we are in grave danger." The president, a seasoned leader who had faced crisis before, ran a hand through his hair. "We can't just surrender. The people of Earth won't accept that." "But what choice do we have?" asked the United Nations Secretary General. The message said we have 1 year, but if they really are as powerful as they claim, we might not even survive that long if we refuse. Meanwhile, across the world, people took to the streets. Riots broke out in major cities. Some demanded immediate resistance, while others called for diplomacy and negotiation. Earth was divided. For the first time, humanity felt small. The prospect of war with an unknown, all-powerful enemy seemed beyond comprehension. In space, the situation was no less tense. Earth's military immediately mobilized its forces, but the reality was grim. Satellites picked up the first signs of the Council's fleets moving toward Earth. It was impossible to track how many ships were on their way, but the size of the fleet was unlike anything humanity had ever seen. For every military leader, scientist, and politician, the same question lingered in the air. Why Earth? Earth had never been involved in galactic politics. It had never broken any galactic laws. In fact, humanity had always been on the fringes of galactic knowledge, existing in isolation. So why, after all these years, was Earth suddenly the target of such a threat? The questions piled up, but no answers came. The Galactic Council's message had been clear, and humanity now faced an unimaginable choice: submit or fight. As the days passed, fear turned to determination. Humanity was a proud species. They had survived wars, plagues, and disasters that had almost wiped them out. They had faced extinction before, and each time, they had found a way to rise again. This time would be no different. But as leaders and civilians alike began to prepare for war, a terrifying thought entered their minds. What if the Council wasn't bluffing? The Galactic Council had already proven its power. And now, Earth would find itself on the front lines of humanity's most dangerous battle yet. The question remained, though, was Earth ready to face the unknown? Was humanity strong enough to stand against the most powerful force the galaxy had ever known? The countdown had begun, and Earth's fate was now in its own hands. The tension on Earth only intensified after the Galactic Council's chilling ultimatum. People across the globe, gripped by fear, uncertainty, and confusion, watched as their governments scrambled to respond. There were no easy answers, no simple solutions. The clock was ticking, and each passing day brought the threat closer to reality. Across the world, military forces prepared for the worst. Generals, commanders, and strategists met in secret, planning for a war they didn't understand. Humanity had never fought a war like this before. The Galactic Council wasn't just another alien race. It was a galactic superpower with technology and resources far beyond anything Earth could imagine. How could a single planet, with its modest defenses, stand against such overwhelming might? But humanity was not a species to bow down without a fight. Though fear hung heavy in the air, there was a determination growing deep in the hearts of Earth's people. This was their home. This was their world. And they would protect it, no matter the cost. The first strategy session. The world leaders convened in a massive underground bunker, hidden away from the prying eyes of the public. The United Nations had called for an emergency summit, and the planet's most influential figures had gathered to discuss how to confront the Galactic Council's threat. Leaders from every corner of the world sat around a table, their faces grim. President Harper, a leader known for his calm under pressure, addressed the group. "We have 1 year, and we know nothing about the Galactic Council's full capabilities. But we can't wait any longer to act. We need to prepare our defenses." General Walker, head of Earth's military, nodded in agreement. "Our space fleet is outdated, and our planetary defense systems are far from capable of withstanding an advanced alien invasion. But we have something they don't. We have humanity's ingenuity. We can't match their strength, but we can surprise them." The room fell silent as leaders exchanged looks. The idea of using Earth's ingenuity to outsmart the Galactic Council wasn't a sure plan, but it was their only option. "Perhaps we can't win the war in a conventional sense," said Dr. Elena Kim, a top scientist and strategist. "But we can find their weaknesses. If we can do that, we might be able to turn the tide." The search for answers. Back at the global headquarters of Earth's space program, scientists and engineers worked around the clock to find any advantage they could. Earth's space station, the Sol Station, became the epicenter of research into the Galactic Council's technology and history. Every bit of data collected from their first transmission was analyzed with painstaking detail. Dr. Kim and her team discovered something unexpected. The Galactic Council wasn't as all-powerful as they first seemed. The Council was made up of several ancient alien species, some of which were far more advanced than others. But they weren't invincible. There were reports of civilizations that had stood up to the Council in the past, and some had even survived. "This is it," Dr. Kim said, pointing at a map of the galaxy displayed on a large holographic screen. "There's a pattern in the places the Galactic Council has tried to conquer. They've always targeted advanced, but isolated civilizations. The Council believes that by picking off these civilizations one by one, they maintain their dominance. Earth may be an anomaly, but it's not impossible to fight back. The realization was both a spark of hope and a grave reminder of the stakes. The Galactic Council had always relied on overwhelming force, but it had never faced a species like humanity before. Earth had no powerful alien weapons, no massive fleets of ships or super soldiers. But Earth had something else, something far more dangerous to an empire that believed it could crush anything in its path: humanity's strength. The people of Earth were beginning to understand that this wasn't just a war against an alien force. It was a war to protect their very way of life. From the leaders in the war rooms to the civilians in the streets, everyone was united by one undeniable truth. Humanity had survived against the odds before, and they would do it again. In every city, resistance groups began to form. Scientists, engineers, and ordinary people began working together, sharing ideas and technology to create new ways of defending Earth. The age-old fear of the unknown was still there, but there was now a rising tide of defiance. They had nothing to lose and everything to fight for. But time was running out. The Galactic Council's fleet was moving closer, and Earth had no way of knowing when the final attack would begin. The one thing Earth could count on was the element of surprise. The countdown. Back on Earth, panic still gripped many regions. The threat of destruction, the unknown nature of the Galactic Council, and the ever-approaching war created chaos in the hearts of millions. But there were those who refused to be swept up in fear. Across the globe, people were coming together, not just to survive, but to fight back. In the heart of the Earth Defense Alliance's command center, a small group of top engineers worked tirelessly to build Earth's most ambitious weapon yet. It wasn't a weapon in the traditional sense. It was a plan, a way to strike at the heart of the Galactic Council's operations and take away their greatest advantage: their control over time and space. It was humanity's last, desperate hope. But if it worked, it would give Earth a fighting chance. As the year drew to a close, and the first signs of the Galactic Council's invasion fleet came into view, Earth was ready. But the real question remained: would their ingenuity be enough to stop the Council? Or was Earth's final battle about to begin? The war was no longer just about survival. It was about proving that humanity could rise above the darkness and defend their home. And for the first time, Earth stood united as one. The year had passed in the blink of an eye. What once seemed like a distant threat had now materialized on the horizon, casting a shadow across the planet. The Galactic Council's fleet, massive and imposing, loomed just beyond Earth's atmosphere. Their arrival was inevitable. The countdown to humanity's greatest battle had begun, and there was no turning back now. Rising tension across the globe. Across Earth, tension surged to a breaking point. The final days leading up to the battle were filled with uncertainty. Some cities had been evacuated, others fortified, and entire populations braced for the worst. Despite all the preparation, the fear was palpable. The Council's power was overwhelming. Even with the secret weapons and strategies humanity had developed, there was no denying the disparity in strength. But there was one thing no one could take away from Earth's people: their unwavering will to fight. The leaders, now more united than ever, gathered once again in the underground war room. This time, however, there was something different in the air. They were not simply reacting to the threat anymore. They had become the threat. Humanity was no longer waiting to be attacked. They were going on the offensive. "It's time," President Harper said, his voice steady but firm. "We've prepared as much as we can. It's time to strike first. We can't let them dictate the terms of this war." General Walker, who had been at the front lines of Earth's defense strategies, leaned over the holographic map of the enemy fleet. "We've identified weak points in their formation. It's not perfect, but it's our chance. We'll hit them hard and fast before they can respond." The unlikely weapon. While the military worked on their plans, Dr. Kim and her team were focused on the ultimate weapon. the one thing that could give humanity a chance to survive this overwhelming conflict. It wasn't a weapon made of brute force or advanced technology. It was a weapon of strategy, the perfect use of human ingenuity. The key was in the mysterious energy signature they had discovered deep in the Galactic Council's archives, something that didn't belong to them, something that the Council had overlooked for centuries. It was an ancient force, older than anything the Council had ever encountered. Humanity had managed to unlock its secrets, and now it was ready to be deployed. This could change everything, Dr. Kim whispered as she examined the glowing data on her screen. If we can harness this energy, we might just have a shot. It was a gamble, one that could either be humanity's salvation or their doom. But in a situation like this, there was no room for hesitation. Earth was now playing its hand, and there was no turning back. The first strike. As the final hours ticked down, the first wave of human ships launched into space. The fleet was small compared to the massive armada the Council had at its disposal, but it was fast, precise, and ready. The humans weren't interested in fighting the Council in an all-out battle. They had something more clever in mind. They would strike at the heart of the Council's fleet and cripple it from within. At the same time, covert teams of scientists and engineers worked feverishly to power up the secret weapon. It was to be humanity's ace in the hole, the one thing that could disrupt the Council's technological supremacy and level the playing field. The clock was ticking, and every second counted. A surprise attack. The Galactic Council had underestimated Earth. They had dismissed the planet as weak, insignificant, too divided and primitive to pose a real threat. But as Earth's fleet began its approach, the first wave of Council ships was blindsided. The humans had struck with lightning speed, catching the Council's fleet off guard. Their strategy was simple but effective. Hit them where they least expected it, strike fast, and strike hard. Explosions lit up the void of space as Earth's ships fired upon the Council's outer defenses. The humans didn't have the firepower to match the Council's warships, but they didn't need to. Their tactics were designed to break the Council's defense systems and create openings for the real weapons to come through. For a moment, it looked as though Earth might have a chance. The turning point. But just as the first strike seemed to be succeeding, the Galactic Council revealed its true strength. The remaining fleet, hidden behind cloaking shields, emerged from the darkness of space, unleashing a devastating counterattack. The human fleet was caught off guard, their advantage quickly slipping away. The Council's firepower was overwhelming. Earth's ships, though fast and agile, were no match for the sheer size and power of the enemy fleet. For a brief moment, it seemed as though humanity's first strike would be their last. But Earth's response was swift. General Walker's voice crackled through the comms. "Hold the line. Push through." It was then that Dr. Kim's team activated the final weapon. The ancient energy they had uncovered, harnessed and directed with all the might of human science, exploded outward in a burst of raw, untamed force. The energy slammed into the Council's fleet like a cosmic hammer, tearing apart their ships, disrupting their technology, and throwing their forces into disarray. For the first time, the Council was on the defensive. The battle has just begun. Though the Galactic Council's fleet had been dealt a severe blow, the war was far from over. Earth's victory was only a small victory in a much larger battle. The war had just begun, and humanity had shown that they were capable of more than just survival. They were capable of winning. As Earth's fleet gathered for the next phase of the battle, one thing was clear. Humanity was not going to go down without a fight. No matter how dark the moment, they would always rise. The war was now humanity's to lose. But the real question remained, would this be the turning point in a war for survival, or would Earth be forced to face its darkest moment yet? The fate of humanity rested in the hands of the brave men and women who stood ready to protect their world, no matter the cost. The victory at the first battle had been a shocking surprise. Earth had managed to strike a blow against the Galactic Council, but that was only the beginning. The Council, humiliated by the unexpected assault, was now more determined than ever to crush humanity once and for all. They had underestimated Earth's resilience, and now they were preparing to make an example of the planet. The Council's retaliation. The Galactic Council was not a collective of peaceful entities as the humans had once believed. They were a force built on dominance and order. A powerful alliance of alien races, their one goal was to bring all civilizations under their rule. Earth had disrupted that order, and they intended to make sure that no other species would dare follow in humanity's footsteps. The full force of the council's might began to descend upon Earth. Thousands of warships, each more advanced and terrifying than the last, entered the solar system. Their massive size and advanced weaponry were unlike anything Earth had ever seen. The first wave had been a mere skirmish, a warning. Now, the true battle was about to begin. Rallying the defenses. As the Council's fleet made its way toward Earth, the planet's leaders gathered once more in the underground war room. There was no time for doubts, no time for second-guessing. The fate of humanity was at stake. We've held them off once, but they won't make the same mistake again, President Harper said, his eyes dark with determination. We need to think bigger, faster, and more aggressively. We can't let them surround us. General Walker stood beside him, analyzing the holographic display of the enemy fleet. They'll come in waves, trying to overwhelm us. But we have a few surprises left for them. We've learned from the first battle. Now we'll fight smarter. Dr. Kim, standing off to the side, was lost in thought. The ancient energy weapon had disrupted the Council's fleet, but they were adapting quickly. She knew that Earth's strength wasn't just in its technology. It was in its people. The soldiers, the scientists, the civilians, they were all united. It was this unity, this sheer willpower, that could turn the tide. I've been working on a new strategy, she said, her voice calm but filled with purpose. It's risky, but if we can disrupt their command systems, it'll create chaos among their forces. Without their leadership, they'll struggle to coordinate, and that's when we strike. The beginning of the counteroffensive. As the Council's fleet neared Earth, the human forces launched their counteroffensive. Unlike the first wave, this time they were ready. The fleets were deployed in multiple stages, prepared to spread the Council's forces thin and force them to split their attention across the solar system. Human fighters were strategically positioned to exploit weaknesses in the Council's approach, allowing the military to keep the enemy off balance. The battle raged across the stars, and the vastness of space became a canvas for humanity's defiance. Explosions filled the vacuum of space, while Earth's ships darted through the debris, using speed and agility to their advantage. It was a fight for survival, but it was also a fight for freedom, a fight humanity had no choice but to win. The turning point. For a moment, it seemed like Earth's forces were gaining ground. The Council, overwhelmed by the unexpected tactics, was struggling to regroup. But just as hope began to rise, a new threat emerged from the depths of space. The Galactic Council had unleashed their final weapon, an enormous superweapon capable of destroying entire planets. The weapon was called the Void Harbinger, and it was unlike anything Earth had ever encountered. It was a massive, dark structure, its surface swirling with deadly energy. The Void Harbinger was capable of sucking entire fleets into a black hole, consuming everything in its path. It was the Council's ultimate ace in the hole, and it had just been deployed. Earth's forces had no way of countering such a powerful weapon. The Void Harbinger moved toward the heart of Earth's defenses, its gravitational pull distorting everything in its path. The tension was unbearable. Would this be humanity's end? Would they be reduced to nothing more than cosmic dust, obliterated by the Council's power? Desperate measures. As the Void Harbinger approached, Dr. Kim and her team worked furiously to find a solution. She knew that if they didn't act fast, everything they had fought for would be lost. The ancient energy she had discovered, the one that had disrupted the Council's fleet earlier, was their only hope. If they could harness that energy and direct it toward the Void Harbinger, they might have a chance to destroy it. With the clock ticking, the humans rushed to assemble their final weapon. It was a desperate measure, one that might either save Earth or doom it. The Void Harbinger was closing in, and Earth's remaining fleet was doing its best to slow its advance. The final push. In the midst of the chaos, Earth's fleet made one final, coordinated push. They launched everything they had left, every fighter, every ship, every weapon. All eyes were on Dr. Kim's team, who had managed to weaponize the ancient energy at the last possible moment. As the Void Harbinger grew ever closer, Earth's forces engaged it in a fierce, desperate battle. The energy weapon was fired, sending a massive shockwave through the space around them. The Void Harbinger trembled under the onslaught, and for the first time, it faltered. It was working. But would it be enough? The fate of Earth now rested in the hands of the brave souls who fought with everything they had. Would humanity survive the wrath of the Galactic Council, or would this be their final stand? The next moments would determine the future of the entire galaxy. The Void Harbinger shook under the powerful energy beams that pierced its dark surface. The ancient weapon had made its mark, but the immense superweapon was far from defeated. The gravitational force it generated began to pull in everything around it, including the very ships that had launched the attack. Time was running out, and the battle had reached its most critical point. The Galactic Council's relentless assault. The Galactic Council had watched as their superweapon began to falter. Rage spread across the Council's leaders as they realized that humanity might actually survive this. The Council's pride was on the line. They had underestimated the humans, and now they were determined to make Earth pay for their insolence. Thousands of ships poured into the battle from all directions. Earth's defenses were already stretched thin, and the Council knew they could overwhelm them now. The final waves were coming, and they were coming fast. The Void Harbinger was no longer their only weapon. It was their declaration that Earth would fall, no matter what. The humans, battered and bruised from the constant onslaught, had no choice but to fight on. The odds were against them. The number of ships they had left was dwindling. Their resources were nearly exhausted, but they were determined to protect their home. Humanity's defiance. Inside the command center on Earth, President Harper looked out across the battlefield through the massive windows of the war room. It was a scene of destruction, but he didn't see hopelessness. He saw courage. He saw defiance. He saw humanity at its best. "General, we have one shot at this," President Harper said, his voice tight with the weight of responsibility. "If we don't push back now, we won't have a future. We need to make a stand. Every ship, every fighter. It's all we have left." General Walker nodded grimly. "We'll give everything we've got, sir. There's no turning back now." The final battle was unfolding, and humanity had no choice but to fight until the bitter end. Their ships, though few in number, moved like a swarm of wasps, attacking from every angle, using speed and strategy to evade the enemy's superior firepower. They weren't just fighting for victory, they were fighting for their survival. The power of unity. On Earth, Dr. Kim's team continued to work tirelessly, trying to harness the last remnants of the ancient energy. It was their final hope. The Void Harbinger loomed, its black hole-like pull swallowing everything in its path. But they couldn't afford to fail. "This is it," Dr. Kim muttered as she watched the energy readings on her screen spike. The energy was unstable, unpredictable. She was hoping that it would be enough to destabilize the Void Harbinger's core before it could unleash its full force on Earth. As the countdown began, Earth's remaining fleet launched their final offensive, a desperate surge towards the superweapon. The fighters swooped in, moving like synchronized dancers, dodging blasts and weaving through the chaos, all to buy precious seconds for Dr. Kim's team to complete their work. The tipping point. The massive warships of the Galactic Council closed in, ready to crush Earth once and for all. The Void Harbinger inched closer, its gravitational field pulling Earth's ships toward it. But then, in the final moments, Dr. Kim's voice rang out through the comm system. "We're ready," she shouted. The energy weapon was charged, and a massive beam shot out, slamming into the heart of the Void Harbinger. The ship's defenses tried to fight back, but it was too late. The energy coursed through its systems, causing massive ruptures and disintegrating parts of its hull. The Void Harbinger faltered once more. Then, in an explosion of light, the superweapon cracked open, releasing a shockwave that rippled through space. Earth's fleet pulled back, avoiding the blast radius just in time. But the Galactic Council's forces had not been so lucky. The destruction of the Void Harbinger sent a ripple effect throughout the battlefield. The enemy ships, caught in the gravitational chaos, were torn apart, their once powerful forces now in disarray. It was as though the very foundation of the Council's might had been shattered. And Earth, though battered and scarred, was still standing. A moment of silence. As the dust settled and the battlefield grew quiet, Earth's forces remained vigilant. The Council's fleet was in chaos, with ships scattered across space. The humans had won the day, but the victory came at a cost. President Harper stood at the front of the war room, his face weary but resolute. He didn't speak. There were no words that could capture what they had just experienced. The battle had been brutal, the stakes higher than ever before. But they had done it. They had faced down the greatest threat humanity had ever known and come out on top. In the quiet that followed, the survivors of the battle began to regroup. Earth had won the war, but the fight for their future was far from over. The Galactic Council had been pushed back, but they would be back. This was only the beginning. The aftermath. As Earth's forces picked up the pieces and the fleet returned to Earth's atmosphere, one thing became clear. Humanity had proven that they would not be easily subdued. The Galactic Council had underestimated them, and now the galaxy knew better. But the cost of the victory was heavy. The war had claimed countless lives. Cities were in ruins. The scars of battle marked Earth, but they were not scars of defeat. They were scars of defiance. And now, Earth had a message for the rest of the galaxy. They were not afraid. They were not backing down. And anyone who wanted to challenge them would learn the same lesson as the Galactic Council. Humanity would fight until the very end. The future was uncertain, but one thing was for sure. Earth would never again be left in the shadows. The galaxy had just witnessed humanity's might, and it would never forget the price they had paid. The calm that followed the battle was short-lived. Earth had barely begun to recover when a new threat emerged. The Galactic Council, humiliated by their failure, wasn't going to rest. Their pride demanded vengeance. Earth's victory had shaken the foundation of the galaxy, and now they were coming for humanity with renewed determination. The Council was not known for mercy. A hidden weapon. Deep within the heart of the Council's domain, in a secluded and highly classified facility, an experimental weapon was being finalized. Known only as Project Elysium, it was designed to bring Earth to its knees. This weapon was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. It harnessed a combination of advanced alien technology and forbidden science, a terrifying force capable of wiping out entire planets. The Council believed that the destruction of Earth's fleet was only a temporary setback. They had the resources to build something even more dangerous. Their operatives worked in secrecy, with only a few of the highest-ranking members aware of the weapon's true potential. But Earth had no idea what was coming. The humans thought they had won, yet the Council had only just begun. A new wave of attacks. It began subtly. A few skirmishes at the edges of Earth's face. Small, unassuming fleets, too weak to be the main force, began raiding outer colonies, testing Earth's defenses. It was a diversion. While Earth's forces were focused on these minor engagements, the true invasion was quietly taking shape. The Council had learned from their previous mistakes. They understood that brute force alone wouldn't break Earth's spirit. This time, they would use deception and terror. They would sow fear before launching the final blow. The first signs of the new assault appeared as flashes of light in the farthest corners of the galaxy. Ships, some unrecognizable, Others, made from materials unlike anything humanity had seen before, moved swiftly toward Earth. The ships carried with them a silent promise of devastation, an unexpected ally. Amid the looming threat, Earth found an unlikely ally, an ancient race of beings who had been watching from the shadows. These beings had no love for the Galactic Council, and they had long since abandoned their ties with them. Known as the Erythians, they were an ancient race of sentient energy forms who had long disappeared from the galaxy's political stage. Their leader, Alora, approached Earth with an offer. They had been monitoring the Council's actions for centuries, and they knew that the Galactic Council was close to perfecting a weapon that could destroy Earth. With their vast knowledge of the universe, the Erythians could help the humans understand the true nature of Project Elysium and how to defeat it. "This weapon you face," Alora explained through telepathic communication, "is not of this galaxy. It is ancient, older than the Galactic Council itself. It is a force of nature, one that can bend reality itself. But there is a weakness, a way to destabilize it before it can reach its full potential." President Harper had been skeptical, but after the Council's previous attacks, he had learned not to dismiss any potential allies. They would need every advantage they could get. The Erythians promised to teach humanity how to use their own ancient technology that could shift the balance of power. But there was a cost. Earth would have to trust the Erythians, and in doing so, would open themselves to a deeper connection to the mysteries of the universe. It was a risk, but it was one they had to take. Preparation for the final battle. In the coming days, Earth's most brilliant minds worked tirelessly alongside the Erythians, studying the secrets of their technology. The combination of humanity's ingenuity and the ancient wisdom of the Erythians created a powerful synergy. They were building something that could turn the tide of the war. Meanwhile, the Council's fleet continued to amass. The presence of the unknown weapon grew stronger, and Earth's scanners could now detect its approach. It was not just a fleet. It was an army of destruction, poised to strike. The clock was ticking. General Walker oversaw the training of Earth's forces, teaching them how to operate the ancient technology alongside their own weapons. Fighters were upgraded with alien tech, and Earth's once weak defenses were now bolstered with newfound power. Every ship was prepared for battle, every soldier trained for the war to come. In the heart of the war room, President Harper stood before his advisors, determination written on his face. "We've come too far to lose now. The Council wants to destroy us, but we will not go down without a fight. This time, we fight smarter. We fight together." The gathering storm. As the final pieces of their plan fell into place, Earth's forces began to assemble. The humans knew that they could no longer afford to wait. The Council was coming, and they would be ready. But even as Earth readied for the final confrontation, doubts lingered in the air. Could they truly defeat the Galactic Council? Could the Erythians' ancient technology give them the edge they so desperately needed? Or was this all a fool's hope? In the darkness of space, the Council's ships moved ever closer, and Earth's defenses stood ready. The final battle was about to begin. There was no turning back now. A glimmer of hope. With the Erythians' teachings and their own indomitable spirit, humanity had become stronger. The human race had faced impossible odds before, and they had survived. Now they would face the greatest threat of all, and they would fight with everything they had. Their future was at stake, and this time, they wouldn't be caught off guard. As the battle loomed ahead, one thing was clear. Earth was not going down without a fight. The Galactic Council had underestimated humanity before, and they would make the same mistake again. The calm before the storm had settled, but the tension in Earth's orbit was palpable. The galactic sky seemed to hold its breath. As the forces of the Galactic Council drew closer, their ships like dark omens creeping toward Earth. The countdown to the final battle had begun. A united front. Earth's military was now ready, but the true power lay in the unity forged between humans and the Erythians. In a war that seemed unwinnable, Humanity had found an ally in a race older than the Council itself. The Erythians, with their vast knowledge of the universe and their strange ethereal abilities, had given Earth the tools to fight back. But the real challenge was not just the weapons or technology. It was the will to fight. President Harper addressed the troops, the soldiers, the scientists, and the brave men and women who had come together under a common cause. We are standing at the edge of our existence. The Council has underestimated us time and again. But this time, we show them who we are. We are not just survivors. We are humans, and we fight to the last breath. His words were a rallying cry for all of Earth. The humans, once seen as insignificant by the greater galactic civilizations, were now about to take their place as fierce warriors. They would no longer be the underdogs. They had learned, adapted, and prepared for this moment. The approach of doom. As the Council's fleet neared Earth, their weapons were ready. Yet they underestimated what humanity had been able to achieve with the ancient Erythian technology. The galaxy's mightiest powers thought Earth would fall like every other world before them. But this time, it was different. The sky above Earth was filled with ships, human and Erythian alike, prepared for the most dangerous mission of their lives. General Walker stood on the command bridge, his eyes scanning the vastness of space. The enemy was close. The air was thick with anticipation. The fight for Earth's survival was about to begin. The first strike. The first shots rang out across the black void of space. The Galactic Council's ships unleashed a devastating barrage, but Earth's defenses were ready. The Erythian technology, a mysterious fusion of energy and advanced matter, created shields stronger than any the Council had faced. For the first time, the Council's weapons hit and then bounced off, like raindrops falling on an invisible force field. Earth's counterattack was swift and brutal. Their ships, now armed with advanced weaponry and guided by the Erythians' knowledge, launched volleys of laser beams, missiles, and energy blasts. It was a spectacle of light and fire, a fight that stretched the very limits of human ingenuity and the strange technologies that had now become Earth's advantage. But the Council's fleet wasn't easily deterred. Their ships were designed for war, their tactics sharp and calculated. A deadly dance began in the cold silence of space, with ships weaving and dodging, firing, and retaliating in the blink of an eye. The battle was intense, but Earth had a surprise in store, a trick up humanity's sleeve. While the Council was focused on engaging the main fleet, a small covert team of Earth's finest engineers and scientists had been working on a project of their own, a weapon capable of disrupting the Council's weapon systems. This technology, created with a mix of Erythian knowledge and human determination, had the potential to turn the tide in humanity's favor. And now, it was ready. Hidden aboard Earth's flagship, Vanguard, the weapon was activated. A massive energy pulse shot out into space, aimed directly at the core of the Council's fleet. The blast struck the heart of their formation, creating a chain reaction that disabled the main battle fleet's weapon systems. The once mighty Galactic Council fleet was now vulnerable. The moment had come. Humanity's true power. The soldiers on Earth's side were no longer fighting just to survive. They fought for their families, their homes, and their place in the universe. With the Council's power neutralized, humanity's fleets surged forward, their ships armed with the most advanced weapons ever built. Each strike they made sent a shockwave through space, a message to the Council that Earth was not to be underestimated. The battle raged on, but with each passing moment, it was clear Earth was not only holding its own, they were winning. The final blow. In the heart of the battlefield, President Harper's flagship, the Defender, engaged in a final desperate charge. With the Galactic Council's fleet faltering, Earth's ships converged on the Council's command ship, a massive structure that had been the symbol of the Council's might for centuries. Harper knew that this was their last chance to ensure Earth's survival. With an unwavering determination, the flagship's weapons fired one final time, striking the Council's command ship directly in its core. The explosion that followed was visible even from Earth, a brilliant burst of light that shattered the darkness of space. The Council's reign was over. Victory and a new dawn. The battle was won, but the cost had been immense. Earth's fleets had been pushed to their limits, and the scars of war would remain forever. Yet, as the smoke cleared and the last of the Council's forces were pushed back, a new era began. Humanity had done the impossible. They had faced down the Galactic Council and emerged victorious. The galaxy had learned a valuable lesson. Never underestimate the power of Earth. The Council had thought that Earth's chair would remain empty forever. They had believed humanity would never rise to defend itself. But in the end, it was the Council that fell, and Earth was the one standing tall. As Earth looked toward the stars, they knew their place in the universe had changed forever. They were no longer just a planet in the shadows. They were now a force to be reckoned with. The war was over, but humanity's journey had just begun. The galaxy would never forget the day Earth stood up and declared its place among the stars. The Forgotten Throne and the Unseen Power. In the vast reaches of the galaxy, there was one seat that had once held unimaginable power. It was the throne of Earth, a symbol of dominance and influence in the universe. For centuries, the greatest minds of countless civilizations had gathered to debate, strategize, and govern from this seat. But one day, without warning, the throne of Earth was abandoned. No one knew why. There were no explanations, no official word from Earth itself. The seat was left vacant, and the galaxy continued to turn, ignoring the fact that something significant was missing. For years, the galaxy carried on as if Earth had simply withdrawn from the Intergalactic Council. The absence of their seat was not questioned by many. The power of other races filled the void left behind, and Earth became an afterthought to most. But for those who had once served beside the humans in the Grand Council, the empty throne was a haunting reminder of an unanswered question. Why had Earth abandoned its place among the stars? Captain Kale, a veteran explorer of the galaxy, was no stranger to the mysteries that lay hidden in the far corners of space. He had ventured across countless planets and met beings from civilizations older than time itself. But when Kale and his crew were assigned to investigate a recently discovered planet, he had no idea they would stumble upon the key to unraveling the greatest secret in the universe. The planet was a long-forgotten one, nestled in a remote part of the galaxy, untouched by time. As Kale and his team descended through the atmosphere, they felt a strange pull, an energy that hummed in the very air. The landscape below was a blend of ancient ruins and untouched wilderness, with massive structures that seemed to have been abandoned for centuries. The planet was mysterious, but what intrigued Kale the most was the ancient symbols carved into the stone, symbols that seemed eerily familiar to him. The explorers set up camp near the ruins, and as they began their investigation, they discovered something odd. There were no records on the planet, no history, no accounts of its past inhabitants. It was as if someone had wiped it clean. But as they ventured deeper into the ruins, they uncovered a hidden chamber, sealed by an ancient mechanism. Inside, they found an inscription that made Kale's heart race. The throne of Earth remains forgotten, its power sealed away. Only those with the courage to seek the truth will uncover the dark secret that lies beneath. Kale paused, his mind racing. Earth's throne, the very seat that had been left empty for so long. The message was clear, yet shrouded in mystery. What had happened to Earth? Why had its seat been abandoned? And more importantly, what was this dark secret that the inscription spoke of? As the explorers continued to search the ruins, they found strange artifacts that seemed to glow with an otherworldly energy. It was as if the planet itself had been designed to protect something. But what could it be? And why had it been hidden so carefully? The deeper they went into the ruins, the more they began to feel a presence. It wasn't just the wind or the sounds of the planet's wildlife. There was something else, a force, intangible but undeniable, watching them. The air seemed to grow heavier, and Cal could feel a chill running down his spine. Whatever was buried on this planet, it was not meant to be found. As they reached the heart of the ruins, the explorers stumbled upon an ancient temple. At its center stood a massive stone structure, an empty throne, eerily similar to the one that had once sat on Earth. But this throne was different. It radiated a strange energy, a power that made the hair on the back of Cal's neck stand on end. It became clear to him now. This was not just a throne. It was a symbol of something far greater, something that had been lost to history. Earth's throne had been abandoned for a reason, but the reason was buried deep within the very ruins they were standing in. And Cal knew, without a doubt, that the answers he sought were just within reach. But uncovering them would not come without a price. As Cal reached out to touch the throne, a sudden force swept over him. The air crackled, and the room filled with a low, rumbling sound. The explorers looked around in fear. Something was waking up. Something that had been dormant for centuries was now stirring, and Cal could sense that whatever it was not going to let them leave easily. In that moment, Cal realized that the galaxy had no idea what it had lost when Earth's seat was abandoned. The throne was not just a symbol. It was a gateway to something far more powerful, a force that could either save or destroy the galaxy. And now, with his team standing on the edge of a discovery that could change everything, Cal had to decide whether to pursue the truth or leave it buried in the past. The choice would not be easy, but one thing was certain. The truth about Earth's forsaken seat would soon be revealed, and nothing in the universe would ever be the same again. The discovery in the ancient ruins was only the beginning. The team, led by Captain Cal, couldn't shake the feeling that they had stumbled upon something much bigger than they had anticipated. The power that radiated from the throne wasn't just a relic of a forgotten civilization. It was alive, pulsating with an energy that made the very air around them seem heavy, as if holding its breath, waiting for something. As Cal and his team regrouped to process the strange occurrence, a deep sense of unease settled over them. The ruins had been eerily quiet, the planet still and untouched. But now, as they moved through the darkened corridors, something felt different. It was as if the planet itself had woken up, aware of their presence and unwilling to let them leave with the knowledge they had uncovered. The inscription, mentioning Earth's forsaken throne, echoed in Cal's mind. The power behind that simple phrase seemed far more than just a metaphor. Earth had been silent for far too long. Its throne had remained empty for centuries. But the question was why? Why had the seat of such a powerful civilization been left unclaimed? And why had this hidden force chosen to reveal itself now? The team worked tirelessly, piecing together clues as they explored deeper into the ruins. But no matter how many secrets they uncovered, each discovery led to more questions. The throne itself appeared to be more than just a seat of power. It was a symbol of an ancient covenant, one that was never fully understood. And as they deciphered the markings on the walls and stones, it became clear that Earth's absence from the Intergalactic Council wasn't accidental. It had been a deliberate act, a decision made by forces far beyond the comprehension of even the most advanced civilizations. In the heart of the ruin, where the throne sat, a series of murals depicted a forgotten war, an intergalactic conflict that had raged for eons, stretching across the farthest corners of the galaxy. Cal's eyes scanned the vivid images, each one showing scenes of destruction, betrayal, and fear. The war had been a battle for control, not just over planets, but over the very essence of life itself. In the murals, Earth was not just a participant. It was the central force behind the conflict, the power that had held the balance of the universe in its hands. But as the scenes unfolded, the story took a chilling turn. The murals began to depict Earth's withdrawal from the war, its seat at the council left vacant. The once mighty planet had made a decision that no one else understood, a decision to cut ties with the galaxy, to forfeit its place among the stars. Captain Cal could feel the weight of those decisions pressing down on him. The truth was beginning to unravel, but each answer only seemed to raise more questions. Why had Earth chosen to abandon its seat? What had driven them to make such an unfathomable choice? And more importantly, what was the dark secret that the inscription had hinted at? In the heart of the temple, Kale and his team discovered a hidden chamber, concealed by an ancient mechanism. Inside, they found a series of crystalline structures, each one radiating the same eerie energy that had surrounded the throne. The crystals hummed with power, and Cal could sense that they were connected to something far larger than the ruins themselves. When Cal placed his hand on one of the crystals, the room suddenly darkened, and an image flashed before his eyes. It was a vision, a memory from the distant past. In the vision, Earth's leaders stood in a grand hall, facing a decision that would alter the fate of the galaxy. The council was divided, the weight of the war too much for many to bear. But the humans, who had once been among the galaxy's strongest, had made a choice that none of the others had anticipated. They had chosen peace over power, abandoning the council and retreating into isolation. But as the vision faded, Cal understood that their departure had not been voluntary. It had been the result of a terrifying discovery. The humans had uncovered a truth, a force so immense and dangerous that they could no longer remain a part of the council. The secret had been hidden away, sealed by those who had feared what it could unleash. And now, as Kale and his team uncovered the remnants of that past, they were getting closer to understanding what had truly happened. The power of Earth's throne was far more than just political. It was tied to something ancient, something powerful enough to shatter the galaxy itself. But what had the humans discovered? And why had they chosen to protect it by forsaking their seat among the stars? The answers were just within reach, but Kel could feel that the closer they got to the truth, the more danger they faced. Whatever had been sealed away by the humans, whatever dark secret lay hidden, was not something that anyone in the galaxy was prepared to confront. As Kel and his team prepared to delve deeper into the mystery, the whispers of danger grew louder. The galaxy had long since forgotten Earth's throne, but soon the universe would have to face the terrifying truth that had been buried for so long. And when that truth was revealed, nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same again. As the ruins of Earth's ancient throne room loomed around them, Captain Kale and his team stood in tense silence, the weight of their discoveries pressing down on them. The strange crystalline structures they had uncovered hummed with a low, ominous frequency, their glow casting eerie shadows on the walls. There was no denying it now. Earth had known something. Something so powerful, so dangerous, that the galaxy's rulers had erased it from memory. Cal's mind raced as he examined the crystals further. He had seen the vision, felt the pulse of the energy coursing through him. The humans had stumbled upon a secret so terrifying that it had driven them to abandon everything. But what could it be? What had Earth discovered that had caused them to make such an irreversible choice? As the team continued to examine the chamber, Kale noticed something strange. The air in the room grew colder, and a faint whisper seemed to echo through the stone walls. It was a sound unlike any Kale had ever heard. A voice, faint but unmistakable, reaching out from the depths of time. It wasn't a voice in the traditional sense, but more of a sensation, a ripple of emotion that seemed to carry the weight of centuries. "Kale," said one of his officers, a young lieutenant named Juno, her voice trembling slightly. "You're hearing it too, aren't you? That voice." Kale nodded gravely, his thoughts racing. "I hear it, but it's not a voice, Juno. It's a presence, a memory, maybe." Juno shuddered as the sound grew louder, more urgent. The crystals in the chamber pulsed, responding to the unseen force, as if they were alive. The whispering seemed to grow clearer, though it remained indecipherable. But just as Cal was about to speak, the voice, if that's what it could be called, stopped. And then silence. The sudden stillness was deafening. The room, once filled with energy and uncertainty, now felt cold and empty. It was as if the very air had been sucked away. Cal's pulse quickened. There was something more here, something that had been waiting for them to uncover it. "We need to go deeper," Cal muttered, more to himself than anyone else. His eyes scanned the darkened corners of the chamber. We can't leave without understanding what Earth hid here. The team moved cautiously, their footsteps echoing in the vast emptiness of the chamber. Juno was right beside Kale, her wide eyes darting around as if expecting something to leap out of the shadows. The crystals, once glowing, now seemed to darken, their light dimming as if the room itself was reacting to their presence. The walls were covered in intricate carvings, some of which seemed to shimmer with the faintest traces of energy. Cal's hand brushed against one of the markings, and instantly, a new vision erupted in his mind. It was different from the last one, more vivid, more immediate. He saw a gathering of beings, but not the council members he expected. These were beings of light, their forms shifting in a way that made them impossible to fully comprehend. The humans were there, but they looked different, more determined, yet wearied by what they had learned. In the vision, the beings of light spoke in unison, their voices harmonious but cold. They warned the humans of an impending disaster, a threat that could tear apart the fabric of reality itself. It was not a threat from another species, not a war or a conqueror, but something far older, far darker, a force that predated even the stars themselves. "They cannot be allowed to rise again," one of the figures whispered, its voice laced with urgency. Their return would mean the end of everything. Kale pulled his hand away from the wall, his heart pounding. The images had left a mark on him, a lingering sense of dread that he couldn't shake. What had the humans uncovered? And why had they chosen to seal it away, forsaking their seat in the Galactic Council? The more Kale thought about it, the clearer it became. Earth had faced a truth so terrible, so overwhelming, that they had chosen to cut themselves off from the galaxy entirely. The humans, once proud and powerful, had willingly isolated themselves, not out of weakness, but out of necessity. The fear of what they had learned was palpable. Whatever it was, it had the power to destroy the entire universe. The air in the room shifted again, and the whispering returned, louder than before. It was no longer a vague sensation. It was words now, clear and distinct. Cal's blood ran cold as the voice spoke directly into his mind. "They sealed it away, and now it calls to you." The words sent a chill through Cal's spine. The power of whatever had been hidden was growing stronger, and it seemed to be reaching out, calling to them, trying to pull them deeper into the mystery. Juno looked at Cal, fear written across her face. "What do we do now?" Cal's gaze hardened as he turned to face his team. "We find out what Earth knew, and we make sure that the galaxy doesn't have to face what they were running from." The galaxy had long forgotten Earth's throne, but the truth buried beneath it would not stay hidden for much longer. Whatever lay ahead, Cal knew one thing for certain: the discovery of Earth's dark secret would change everything. And the universe, as it stood, would never be the same again. The atmosphere in the chamber had thickened, heavy with the weight of what they had discovered. Captain Kale and his team stood motionless, their breaths echoing in the deep silence that had once again enveloped them. The voice had stopped, but its message lingered, ringing in their ears like a warning they could not ignore. The room itself seemed to pulse with an unseen energy, as though it were aware of their presence, watching them, waiting. Juno shifted uneasily beside Kale, her face pale but determined. "Captain, what did the voice mean?" "It calls to you. Who or what is calling?" she asked, her voice strained with the fear of the unknown. Kale didn't answer right away. His mind raced with possibilities. What could have been so powerful that Earth had not only hidden it away but had also cut itself off from the galaxy? The memory of the glowing figures, the warnings, and the sense of something ancient and dangerous gnawed at him. He wasn't just dealing with a forgotten throne. This was something far more sinister, something capable of altering the course of the universe itself. He slowly turned to face his team, trying to steady his thoughts. "We don't have all the answers yet, but we need to find out what happened here. Earth's decision to leave the galaxy, to leave the seat unclaimed. There was more behind it than we can comprehend. We're dealing with something that was hidden for a reason. The team nodded in agreement, but the unease was palpable. Every step forward felt like they were drawing closer to something dangerous, something that could destroy not just their mission, but their entire existence. But there was no turning back now. Kale led the way deeper into the room, toward the central altar-like structure that seemed to be the focal point of the chamber. The closer they got, the more oppressive the energy became. The crystals lining the walls flickered with faint pulses of light, casting strange shadows that seemed to dance around them, like specters of the past. The air grew colder still, as if the very atmosphere had been tainted by whatever had been locked away here. Juno's voice broke the silence once again. "Captain, look." She pointed to the base of the structure. There, lying beneath the glowing crystals, was an ancient tablet, partially buried in dust and debris. Its surface was etched with intricate symbols, ones Cal hadn't seen before. They seemed to shift and change as he stared at them, almost as if they were alive, reacting to his gaze. His instincts screamed at him to leave it alone, but he knew they had no choice. This was the key. With a heavy heart, Cal crouched down and reached for the tablet. As his fingers brushed against its surface, the symbols flared to life, filling the room with a brilliant light. A surge of energy coursed through him, and for a moment, he thought his mind might shatter under the intensity of the vision that unfolded before him. In an instant, Cal saw Earth's past, its rise, its power, its knowledge. He saw the moment when humanity had uncovered something ancient and terrifying, a force so great that it had shaken the very foundations of the universe. This force, something older than the stars themselves, had been sealed away, its existence erased from all records. And yet, Earth's leaders had known that it was only dormant, that it would one day return, and when it did, it would bring devastation on a scale never seen before. Humanity, Earth, they weren't just hiding from the galaxy. Cale muttered, his voice hoarse with the realization. They were trying to protect it. The room seemed to close in around them as the weight of the truth sank in. The entire galaxy had been in the dark about Earth's true legacy. While the rulers of the stars thought Earth's throne was left empty due to weakness or neglect, they had been utterly wrong. The throne had been forsaken to protect everyone, to stop a cosmic catastrophe that had been waiting to awaken. Juno's eyes widened with horror. "Are you saying?" Earth knew something was coming, something they couldn't stop. Cale nodded slowly, the pieces falling into place. Yes, and whatever it was, it's still out there, waiting. The galaxy doesn't even know how close it is. Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled, the crystal's light flashing violently as the energy from the tablet grew stronger. The walls shook, and a deep rumbling sound filled the air, as if the very core of the planet was protesting their intrusion. The voice returned, louder this time, its urgency clear. "The time is near. They have awoken. The end is coming." Cal's heart pounded in his chest as he looked around, the room spinning with the weight of the revelation. The galaxy's rulers had no idea what they were dealing with. They had no idea that Earth, in its wisdom, had forsaken everything to hide the truth from them. And now, that truth was coming for them all. "We need to leave. Now," Cale ordered, his voice sharp with authority. He stood, grabbing the tablet and tucking it into his jacket. There was no time to waste. They needed to warn the galaxy, to stop whatever was coming before it was too late. The team rushed to follow him, their hearts racing as the tremors grew stronger. But as they made their way back to the exit, Cale couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, that something was waiting for them in the shadows, ready to strike. The truth was out now. Earth's throne had been abandoned not out of weakness, but because of a fear that had gripped humanity's heart. An ancient fear that had been passed down through the ages. The galaxy had no idea what it was about to face. But Cale did, and he knew that the future of everything hung in the balance. As Cale and his team hurried through the dark corridors, the urgency in the air felt suffocating. The tremors that had shaken the room now seemed to echo throughout the entire facility. The ancient structure groaned as if it were coming to life, protesting their departure, as though it didn't want to let them go without revealing its secrets. "We're not alone," Juno whispered, her voice barely audible over the rumbling sound that had intensified. Every step they took felt like it led them further into danger. The walls seemed to close in on them, the eerie flickering of the crystals casting long, menacing shadows. Cal's heart pounded in his chest. He had always been a man of action, but even he could feel the weight of the unknown pressing down on him. There was something out there, something ancient, something that had been waiting for them to uncover the truth. The voice that had warned them, the shaking ground, and the blinding light from the tablet. Everything was pointing to one undeniable fact: the galaxy was in far more danger than they realized. "Captain, we need to move faster," said Rylan, one of the other soldiers on Cal's team. His face was pale, his eyes wide with the fear that had taken hold of them all. "This place, it's not just a relic, it's a prison." Cal nodded, gripping his weapon tightly. "I know, but we need to get back to the ship and figure out what this all means. We have to warn the galaxy." As they rushed toward the exit, they passed more of the strange symbols etched into the walls, glowing faintly, almost as though they were watching them, aware of their every movement. It was as if the structure itself was alive, reacting to their presence. The deeper they went, the stronger the sensation became. Whatever had been hidden in this forsaken place was beginning to stir again. When they reached the main hallway, a sudden blast of cold air swept past them, extinguishing the soft light from their torches. The temperature dropped drastically, and a faint, eerie whisper filled the air. "We're not alone," Cal said again. But this time, his voice cracked with the realization of what that truly meant. Suddenly, the ground beneath them shook once more violently this time. The entire structure seemed to tremble in response, as if it were trying to hold back something far more powerful than they could comprehend. Without warning, the walls began to shift. Massive stone slabs slid apart, revealing a hidden chamber beyond. The glow from the crystals intensified, casting an unearthly light across the room. Cal's team instinctively raised their weapons, prepared for whatever might emerge. But what they saw sent a chill through their very bones. A figure stood in the center of the chamber, tall, cloaked in darkness, and radiating an aura of power that was both ancient and terrifying. Its eyes glowed with an unearthly light, and Cal could feel its gaze piercing through him, as though it could see his very soul. The air seemed to ripple with energy, and Cal's heart raced as he tried to make sense of the impossible scene unfolding before him. The figure's voice was deep, resonant, and filled with the weight of centuries. "You should not have come." The team froze, unsure whether to fight or flee. The presence in the room was overwhelming, and for a moment, it felt as though the very walls were closing in on them. They had unearthed something far greater than they had anticipated, and now they were face to face with the source of the terror that had kept Earth's throne empty for so long. "What are you?" Cal demanded, his voice steady despite the fear coursing through him. "What is it you want?" The figure took a step forward, its form shifting and distorting, as though it were both part of the darkness and something far older. "I am the keeper of the forbidden force," it said. "I am the one who ensures it remains hidden. And now, you have awakened it." The ground beneath them trembled again, more violently this time, as though the very foundation of the world was cracking. The figure raised its hand, and the entire chamber seemed to bend in response. The walls shimmered with energy, and a low hum filled the air. Cal's mind raced as he tried to process the words. What was this force? What had Earth kept hidden? And why had they abandoned their place in the galaxy to protect it? "Captain, we need to get out of here." Juno's voice broke through his thoughts, but Cal knew they were too far in now. They couldn't leave without answers. "We can't just leave," he said. "We need to understand what's going on, what Earth knew, and why they chose to hide it." The figure, sensing their resolve, let out a soft chuckle. "You think you can stop what has already begun?" it asked, its voice dripping with ancient knowledge. "You are mere children, playing in a game that spans eons. The force you seek to understand, it cannot be contained. It is coming, and you are the ones who have set it free." The walls began to crack, and a low, deafening roar echoed from deep within the structure. Kel's team scrambled to find cover, but it was too late. The force had awakened, and nothing could stop it now. "Run!" Kel shouted, but he knew the truth. There was no escape. The very thing they had sought to uncover had been unleashed, and the universe would soon know its consequences. As the chamber erupted in light and energy, Kel had only one thought. The universe would never be the same again. And neither would they. The chaos in the chamber escalated quickly. The walls cracked open, revealing the ancient power that had been sealed away for eons. A brilliant, blinding light poured from the cracks, filling the room with an unbearable intensity. The force that had been hidden for so long was no longer dormant. It was awake, and its wrath was unrelenting. Kel's team had no choice but to scramble for survival. The structure was collapsing around them, the once sturdy walls shaking as if they could no longer hold the terrible force inside. With every passing second, the situation grew more dire. They had awakened something far beyond their comprehension, and now there was no turning back. "Move!" Kel shouted, pushing his team forward, their boots thudding against the stone floor as they raced toward the exit. The lights flickered and sputtered, casting eerie shadows as the ancient structure groaned in protest. Behind them, the figure in the center of the chamber seemed to vanish into the chaos. Its form dissolved into the very energy that was now overwhelming the room. The force it had guarded, the one that had kept Earth's throne vacant for so long, was now free, and it was angry. The ground trembled beneath their feet, and the roar of destruction seemed to shake the very stars themselves. The chamber was crumbling. Every step was a struggle against the building storm of energy that surged from the depths. Kel had never experienced anything like this. There was no way to predict what would happen next, no way to stop it. They were in the eye of a storm they had unleashed. "Captain, we need to get out of here now." Ryland's voice was sharp, his breath ragged from the exertion of running through the shaking corridors. Kel nodded, his focus fixed on the exit ahead. The path was growing narrower with each passing moment. Massive chunks of rock fell from the ceiling, blocking the way forward, and the roar from behind them was growing louder. It was a sound like thunder, but it wasn't natural. It was the sound of something far older, something that shouldn't have been disturbed. As they neared the exit, a sudden tremor sent the entire hallway into chaos. The walls cracked open, revealing a vast chasm below them. Without thinking, Kel leaped forward, grabbing onto a crumbling ledge just in time. His team followed suit, each one struggling to find their footing as the very ground seemed to fall away beneath them. "Keep going," Kel shouted, pulling himself up with one hand and using the other to help the others climb out of the growing pit. But as he looked around, something caught his eye. The sky above them was no longer the familiar stars they had seen from Earth. The light from the structure's energy had changed the very fabric of reality. The stars had shifted, some had blinked out of existence, while others burned brighter than ever before. There was a dark, swirling energy in the cosmos now, a presence that Kel could feel pressing down on him from all sides. "We're not just leaving this place behind," Juno said, her voice filled with dread. "Whatever's happening here, it's affecting everything. The galaxy, it's changing." Kel turned to face her, his eyes narrowed. He could feel the shift too. It was as if the galaxy had been altered, as if the entire universe had been set on a new course, and it was one they were now a part of. The awakening of the ancient force had set something in motion, and now they were all caught in the tide. They reached the exit just as the last of the structure's walls crumbled, sending dust and debris flying into the air. As they stumbled out into the open, Kel took a deep breath, the cool air a stark contrast to the suffocating heat of the collapsing structure. but their escape was short-lived. In the distance, ships were already descending, massive fleets gathering from all corners of the galaxy. Their purpose was unclear, but Kale knew one thing for certain. The discovery of Earth's abandoned throne had reached the ears of the galaxy's rulers. They were coming, and they were coming fast. "Do you think they know what we've unleashed?" Rylan asked, his voice tight with concern. "I don't know," Kale said, "but we'll find out soon enough." As the ships landed, their engines whirring to a halt, Kale couldn't shake the feeling that the galaxy was holding its breath. This wasn't just the beginning of a new chapter for Earth, it was the beginning of a new era. The galaxy's rulers were arriving, and they were not going to be pleased. With the ancient force unleashed, the stakes were higher than ever. Kale and his team had no idea what they were about to face, but one thing was certain: the galaxy would never be the same again. And neither would they. The ground beneath them trembled again, but this time it was different. The power of the force that had been awakened was far from over. The universe itself seemed to be responding to the storm they had stirred, and the path ahead was uncertain, dangerous, and full of consequences they couldn't yet understand. The only thing they could do now was face it head-on, and pray that they were ready for what was coming next. The sky overhead was no longer the deep, serene black of space. It had turned into something else, an ominous canvas, darkened by the arrival of countless ships. Their silhouettes blocked out the stars, and their engines hummed with an eerie, unsettling power. Kale and his team stood in stunned silence, watching as the massive ships descended, their shadows stretching over the ruined landscape of Earth's once proud capital. The galaxy's rulers were here. The power that had been awakened in the ancient structure was drawing them in, and they were not pleased. The air crackled with tension, as if the very universe was holding its breath. "They're here," Juno whispered, her voice tight with fear. "What now?" Kale didn't have an answer. He had never imagined the galaxy's leaders would come here, to Earth, drawn by the disturbance they had unleashed. He had hoped they would remain oblivious, that the ancient force would remain hidden. But that was not to be. The universe had a way of revealing its darkest secrets, and now they were all caught in the middle of it. From the ships, they saw figures emerging. Tall, imposing beings, clad in armor that shimmered with an otherworldly glow. Their eyes, glowing with the cold light of distant stars, scanned the ground as they moved with precise, calculating steps. These were the rulers, the ones who controlled the fate of entire civilizations. They were here to claim the throne that had been abandoned for so long. One of the figures stepped forward, a leader among them, towering over the others. His voice echoed across the open space, booming like thunder as he spoke, addressing Kale and his team. "Earth," he began, his tone cold and filled with authority, "you have awakened something you cannot understand. The power you have disturbed is ancient, far beyond your reckoning. Do you know what you have done?" Kale stood tall, trying to hide the anxiety gnawing at him. He had no idea how to respond. The galaxy's rulers were not to be trifled with. They were beings of immense power, and they had come here to restore their control over the throne. But Kale and his team had made their choice. They had awoken the ancient power, and now they had to face the consequences. "I don't think any of us fully understand what we've done," Kale replied, his voice steady despite the fear that gripped his heart. "But what's been awakened, it's beyond anything we could have imagined. We didn't mean to disturb it, but now that it's out, there's no going back." The ruler's eyes narrowed. "You foolish humans. You have no idea what you've unleashed. This power was meant to remain dormant, a secret hidden from the universe. But now that it's awake, it threatens everything we have built. We cannot allow it to continue. You will pay for your ignorance." Kale felt the weight of the ruler's words press down on him, but there was something else in his heart, a spark of defiance. He knew that they had made a mistake, but they had also uncovered something incredible. The galaxy's rulers could threaten them all they wanted, but Kale wasn't about to let them take this discovery away. The truth was out, and it could not be hidden again. "You can't silence the truth," Kale said, his voice filled with determination. "What we found, it's bigger than you, bigger than all of us. The power of Earth's throne, it's not just for you to control." The ruler let out a low, menacing laugh. "You speak of things you cannot comprehend. The throne you speak of was never meant for your kind. It is a symbol of the old order, of a power far greater than your tiny planet could ever wield." Kale clenched his fists, standing his ground. He had no idea how to fight back against such an overwhelming force, but there was one thing he knew for certain. They couldn't let these rulers take control again. They had unleashed the power, and they were now part of its destiny. Suddenly, the ground beneath them began to tremble again, but this time, it wasn't from the collapse of the ancient structure. The force that had been awakened was reacting to the presence of the rulers. It had been dormant for so long, but now, with the galaxy's leaders standing in its path, it was rising, fueled by an ancient anger. Kale could feel it, a power beyond comprehension, shaking the very fabric of space and time. The rulers seemed to sense it too. Their faces hardened, and they began to retreat, their movements becoming more cautious. The leader spoke again, but his voice was now tinged with uncertainty. "This is beyond us," he muttered, as the tremors grew stronger. "We have to leave now." But it was too late. The power that had been locked away for eons was now in full force, and it wasn't going to let anyone stand in its way. The rulers' ships began to shake, their engines sputtering as they tried to take off. The sky darkened further, and a blinding light shot out from the heart of the ancient structure, engulfing everything in its path. Kale and his team barely had time to react. They were thrown to the ground by the force of the energy, unable to see or hear anything as the world around them exploded in light. When the light finally faded, everything was silent. The rulers were gone. Their ships had vanished, and the once powerful presence they had carried with them had been swallowed by the storm of energy. Kale slowly rose to his feet, his heart pounding. The universe had changed, and they were no longer just witnesses to it. They had become part of something much bigger. And as they looked out at the quiet sky above them, they knew one thing for sure. The future of the galaxy was uncertain, but it was now in their hands. The throne of Earth may have remained empty for eons, but it had been found, and it had shaken the galaxy to its core. The true power had been revealed, and no one would ever be the same again.